Thanks very much, Alex, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jamie Gibson. I'm the MD and CEO of Kingsgate Consolidated. And just want to say, absolutely delighted to be here at the Australian Gold Conference today. Good to be back. As Kerry and Alex said, no better time to be in gold. And they've set things up beautifully for what I'm sure will be a really extraordinary 2 days of investment. And what I wanted to talk about today, and they've given me the perfect lead-in, is all of you out there come from different segments of the industry. Some of you work in the mining companies, some of you are in the finance side, some of you are sophisticated investors, some of you might be first-timers to the gold space. And this is a really great opportunity to really drill down, see what it's all about, ask those questions. Ask the dumb questions, ask the hard questions. There is no dumb questions. And hopefully you'll take away a lot from this conference. And that's what I've kind of want to talk to you about today. Gold, the big picture. I want to give you a background because have you ever really thought, what is it? Where does it come from? Why is it so revered? Why is it so mythical in the human psyche? And I want to give you a few more tools about why it is like that. And I want to give you some basic understanding of the industry, some of the metrics that we use, because we've got some very engaging and interesting speakers following. We've got finance professionals, we've got corporate professionals. I think you're going to learn a lot. But before I get into that, I want to share with you a personal story. And this will be one of the most complicated algorithms that you'll see all day. I want to set the scene for you. This is, I guess, underpins my relationship with gold all of my life. It's December 1980, midsummer. I'm from Condobolin, and if you've never heard of Condobolin's claim to fame is it is the geographic centre of New South Wales, and in the early 2000s, Shannon Noll came second in Australian Idol. And good old Knowlesy, as we're allowed to call him, because we're from Condo, when he came second, the ABC put Condobolin on their weather map for 2 whole weeks straight. That was pretty exciting for us, because we tried to take photos of it with the Polaroid and show people. But here we are. This is me. I'm on the right-hand side. That's my older brother. And we're standing in the doorway of the Indian Pacific at Condobolin. And now some of you who may be train enthusiasts in your spare time would know that the Indian Pacific runs from Sydney to Perth, goes through Adelaide, basically, as the name suggests, crosses the country. So my parents thought this would be a great idea. Let's get the Indian Pacific from Condobolin to Broken Hill. Let's go and learn about our rich mining history, and we'll get another train called the Silver City Comet back. Unfortunately, the Silver City Comet doesn't run these days. And we'll spend a few days in Broken Hill. So there's me and my brother setting out with my family. Fantastic stuff. And now, if you add to that image on the right, and I know it's a little bit hard to see, but it looks like gold, but it's actually iron pyrite, better known as fool's gold. We've had a fabulous day travelling around Broken Hill. My brother's picked up a piece of this in one of the museum shops. And we're at the motel later that evening. My father's downstairs enjoying a refreshing West End draft. And my mum popped down to talk to the motel manager about how we might get to Silverton the next day. Didn't think about that without a car. So sitting in the hotel room, it's me and my brother. He's left his piece of iron pyrite on the table. Here's me thinking, this is real gold. There's an opportunity to get rich. Grabbed it. I'm out the door like a rabbit. And it's an up and down motel with the stairs. He chases me around. We run around for a good few minutes, make real pests of ourselves. I get back to the room that I think's our room. The door's open. I go in, lock the door, jump behind the bed and thought, good, got it, got away, rich, got the gold. And I wondered why my brother wasn't trying to get in. I thought, that's a bit strange. Usually, likes to punch me, stuff like that. He'd be making a bit of an effort. None of that. It was all silent. Didn't take long for me to realise that none of our stuff was in the room and I'd come into the wrong room. But then it didn't take also long for my mother to turn up with the motel owner. He opened the door. Mother next to him, very, very surly look on her face, grabbed me by the arm, marched me back to the room, and as soon as the door was shut, grabbed one of those wooden coat hangers and cracked it across my backside, and it split into 3 pieces. And I've got to hand it to Mum, she really put a shoulder into it. They're proper coat hangers, right? They were well made back then, not like that plastic nonsense today, you hang your shirt up, snaps in half. Cracked it right across me, and it was that moment I thought and began to contemplate the real value of gold. And that really set the scene for me in terms of my life and the way gold has intertwined with my life over all of those years from back in the 1980s up until now. It turns out that I went to a high school that was founded by money from the Holterman Nugget. And for any of you, and that's it right there, there's a picture of it right there. It took a few years for me to dawn that that was the case, and in fact that's an emblem of the Sydney Mining Club for any of you who have been to that, which is fantastic. And I found out later, and some of you would be aware, that near Condobolin, the Kingston team have the Mineral Hill asset, and a big kudos to them. I know they've just recently brought that back into production, but upon further research I found out that some of my family had previously owned some of that land. So gold's always been intertwined in my life, so I guess it was a natural fit that I should work with it in some way. Haven't got a clue about it, but I love it, and I'm going to give you some basic information on it today, and I just wanted to share that little personal story with you to get started. Moving along, so what is gold? Have you thought about it? I tell people it's from outer space and they look at me funny, and I'm going to show you a short video on that in a minute. But the analogy I like to give about it, about how rare it is and how hard it is to find, and Alex made a good point about it being very deep and all of that sort of thing. Imagine you have 1 billion M&Ms all laid out on the floor, and only 3 of those are gold. That's how rare it is. That's how hard it is. But it's an incredible metal. It's the only yellow metal. It's basically indestructible. It's just sensational. And I just want to show you a short video now about the origin of gold. So now's a good time to make some phone calls, do some texts, go and grab a coffee. Video goes for about 4.5 minutes, and then I'll be back to load you up with some more important investment information that you need to understand the big picture of gold better. So here we go. Oh, any sound? Sorry, the tech guys are great. I couldn't embed this video, so I was here for 40 minutes with them this morning, swearing. But we got it in, and I'm confident they'll be able to get some sound. Otherwise, I'll have to keep telling you stories, and I don't think anyone wants that. It wouldn't be a conference without one, Kerry, yep.
What's that?
Wouldn't be a conference without one.
Wouldn't be a conference without some technical challenges. How are we doing, boys? No sound. Do you know, we worked really hard on this morning, didn't we?
We did, and it worked really well.
And everything, you know, it's always happens,
You
isn't it?
know what it is.
It's like we got the sound, we got the video, it's all sorted.
Yeah, I think it's Mercury in retrograde, that's what it is.
Is it?
Yeah.
Full moon?
Yeah.
Because it's a really good video, guys.
Someone laughed, I know you're into it.
So we're going to give it...
We'll give it one more try. If we can't, I'll just tell you what it was.
But it's a really good video.
It's a really good video. It's really simple. It's at a very simple level to understand the origin of gold, how it was created in the atmosphere.
And while they're fiddling around with that, one of the things I did want to say as well, which I forgot to mention this morning, so I might as well mention it now while tech is having a go. Tomorrow, in the final session, after we've done the recap, which Sean Russo is going to be chairing, we have a number of clients here that are going to be giving away various things. We've got things such as, what is it, chocolate in a bottle? It's not chocolate, it's actually champagne that tastes like chocolate. We've got gold, we've got silver, we've got lots and lots and lots and lots of giveaways. But here's the trick. If you're not in the room and your name gets called out, next.
I'll give you one of my business cards. That'll be punishment for you.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. And we'll also be having drinks. That's the final drinks. Will be here as we do the giveaway. So we give away gold, silver, lots of different bits and pieces. and a drink, and that'll be the last session tomorrow. I'm going to ask our team once more if we've got any technical update. How are we doing?
Do you want me to?
Are we good?
We good?
Going to try it again? Sorry?
I'll keep going and they'll let me know.
Righto.
All right, we'll come back. We'll come back to the gold, the origin story. So just imagine you've watched this really great video, 4.5 minutes. You understand where gold's come from, how it got in the atmosphere, how it got in the earth. Since the beginning of humanity, it's been a really important economic imperative. It's been around since the 6th century. It's been in various forms. Everybody that was anybody was into it. Alexander the Great, the Romans, the Muslim empires, they all had it. And it's been growing since then. And it's got its own special place here in Australia as well. Obviously, we were founded a little bit later than other areas, but the gold rushes, the history of that from the 1850s through the 1870s, New South Wales, Victoria, Paddy Hannon over there in the west in 1893, the great Irishman that found gold at Kalgoorlie, really set this country up to be an economic and a mineral powerhouse, and it's just really fantastic. And in fact, the gold standard as well, you know, the gold standard where basically a unit of currency was pegged to a fixed amount of gold. What a fantastic system that was. It went from 1871, had a few years off here and there through the Depression, but basically lasted right up until 1971 when Richard Nixon, arguably US's greatest president, gave it up. And Switzerland, I think, were the last to give it up in 1999, as they would, being a top 10 world holder of gold. So that's why it's important as a monetary unit. I think we're all ready to go now back to the origin story. So let me pop this back and you know, as I said, now's a good time to take a break. and kind of high-level video to understand the origin of gold, because I don't think we ever really think about it. You know, you work in it, you deal with it, you trade in it. What a fascinating backstory, and I love telling people it's from space, that it's a great conversation starter, good for your next pub trivia. Make sure you remember that one. Okay, let's get back into it. So we've gone through economic imperative, we know why it was good. Cultural icon. Of course, there's so many associations and memories and things that it brings together. Probably the 2 points that I want to emphasise on this page are the bottom 2 points in the right-hand box, a golden language and the price of a suit. Gold's so ingrained in the human psyche, we use it in phraseology and common speech without even really thinking about it. We say, that person's got a heart of gold, that's good as gold. You know, you're worth your weight in gold, golden handshake, all of those things. It's embedded, its precious nature is embedded into our psychology and the way we speak. Of course, what's the best award you can get in the sporting arena? Gold medal. And it's always been there, it's been like that. And the bottom one, the price of a suit, and now to be fair, I have to give Jake Klein, the Evolution boss, credit for this, because I saw him use it in a presentation, so I ripped it off because I know he's not here. I don't think he's here. But I always liked it, and basically the saying is that the market generally prices or equates an ounce of gold to being the price of a good suit. Of course, I'm resplendent here in the $4.99 sort of lows, 2 pair of pants for one, but at 3,700 Aussie, I'm sure you could get a pretty good suit. And I always like that, and I try and use that as a reasonable measure going forward. So feel free to rip that off me whenever you're talking about it. So we know it's a cultural icon. Speaking of cultural icons related to gold, does anybody know who these two fine gentlemen are? Anybody want to hazard a guess? This gentleman here. Correct, and we're going to give you a free hat if Kerry says it's okay later on. And that's right. So can you believe, on the left-hand side, Auric Goldfinger. He's one of my absolute favourite Bond villains. 60 years ago, that movie came out this year. Can you believe it? 60 years. And he was a man with a plan. He was going to rob Fort Knox, and he almost did it. On the right-hand side, absolutely right, Francisco Scaramanga. Not as ambitious, just wanted to kill the world. Had a golden gun, but love them, and I'm happy to take this outside later on, and you can put who was more important or better Bond villains to me. But again, shows the psyche, the thread of gold, the importance of gold in popular culture. And in fact, Auric Goldfinger is my phone screensaver. Love that guy. Okay, so moving on from them. Right now to some serious stuff, and this is stuff that you can use for the rest of the conference. And I thought I'd better actually read the notes on this. This is not stuff I can make up. And in fact, our General Manager Geology, Jill Terry, is right here. I don't want to get the stink eye. But basically, when you're thinking about valuation, what's gold like, how do you find it, how do companies get it, what do they look for, there's kind of 7 broad deposits. And I know there's some technical people in the room, so again, you can tell me off outside later on. But basically, at a very high level, the orogenic deposits are sort of quartz carbonate veins. They're often found in slate and greenstone. You'll be able to do some research on that. Reduced intrusion are large zones of parallel sheeted gold. And oxidised intrusion related gold deposits include well-known porphyry, skarn, high sulphidation, epithermal deposits. They're all terms that you would have heard geologists talk about. The Carlin-type gold deposits was first used to describe a sediment found in Nevada and a mine named after that. And of course, the one I really like is the sort of gold-rich volcanogenic, what a great word that is, massive thing. Often find zinc and other things in it, but you do find gold there as well. And the paleoplacer deposits are quite famous because I'd say majority of the gold found so far in the world has come from them. And it's basically where sediments are dumped in at shallow areas. But again, happy to take that offline. That's good to know, good to have that up your sleeve. This is things that you can ask the companies that are here, what kind of gold deposit they got, and that will give you the basis of what the economics look like for the project. So that's just a high level thing, and obviously the graph there is a little bit useful. It demonstrates most of the different types. Just moving along from them. So how does it mine? And what do companies do? That kind of thing. Obviously, over the years, the technology's evolved quite a lot. Probably don't need to say too much about the placer and the top mining. Most of the mining these days is hard rock mining, which falls into 2 categories, obviously underground and open pit. Most of the companies that you will see here today generally fall into those 2 categories. Obviously, there is some recycled gold, there's gold processing. They talk about the use of chemicals like cyanide and mercury. Mercury is probably largely artisanal now and probably mostly illegal. But they're questions that you can ask. Concentrate on the hard rock mining questions for the companies that are here. Important to know who's who in the room, who's the big dogs, who makes the most gold, who gets the most gold. And look, I'm sure most people would be generally aware of this, and this is up until, I think, end of 2023. Obviously, China leading the way, the gold medal for gold production. Good to see Australia in tied silver medal place there with Russia. And obviously then it trails off to Canada and the US and Indonesia and a few things like that. But just good to be aware. That obviously informs a lot of the marketplace activity as well, and the Barrenjoey boys and the other guys that will be talking after this will tell you all about that, who's buying it, why they're buying it, and what the multiples look like, and some valuation metrics. But just understanding the sort of global picture of who's got it, who's collecting it, who's mining it is very useful, and it does help you inform some of your investment decisions. Moving on from the production, now this kind of follows what Alex was saying. So when you're making an assessment of who you should invest in, particularly if you're a shareholder or investment banks are the same, things that they look for with gold miners or gold mining companies, again, key jurisdictions, tier 1 jurisdictions, and tier 1 jurisdictions are generally areas where there's large, highly economic deposits. Australia and Canada are certainly well known for those, parts of Africa, obviously some regulatory issues there from time to time, but a tier 1 deposit or a tier 1 jurisdiction can be a company maker. If you find a large, highly economic deposit, then it will put your company on the map. Obviously the deposit type, which we've just skimmed over there briefly, you can look at any of the 7 and you can work out what kind of extraction techniques, what's the cost profile going to look like, and importantly, what's the life of mine? So how much gold have they got? I heard De Grey, it's great to see De Grey in the room. They have got a stonking project over there in Western Australia, and that's the kind of stuff you're looking for. It's about how long can they be there, what's their resource and the reserve base look like, and how economical can it be. Just on the second point, grade is king. Alex made a good point about that, and it's too late for me to delete it because it's already here in the presentation, but I think it's important that it is taken in context of other things. Obviously, you know, the higher the grade, the more grams of gold per tonne you've got, the more economical it is if it's at the right level and if it's extractable. But it does have a range of factors that influence its price, whether it's underground, whether it's open cut, whether there's any environmental issues that need to be mitigated as part of your mining. Of course, your flow sheet, and what the flow sheet means is how you process it. Is it a standard carbon in leach processing plant, carbon in pulp? Is it heap leach? Is it agitated leach? Is it any number of these different processing types? That will give you different recoveries. That will influence the amount of gold you make, and it will influence the price of the gold that you make. And that leads to the last point. One of the key metrics that companies look at, even though they're not universally mandated, they do tend to report this way, are your all-in sustaining costs. And basically what that means is how much does it cost you from start to finish to dig the gold, process the gold, sell the gold. And that's how you can compare companies. But it's important, again, to compare apples with apples in this case. Obviously, different deposits, different processing types will have different cost curves. Of course, it's the goal of all mining companies to try and be as efficient and save as many costs as you can. You've seen these costs written down. They generally report them. In some areas, they're called all-in sustaining. Some report them as all-in costs, which have some metrics missing depending on the state of the development. And obviously, there's international accounting standards that you've got to apply over that. And obviously, foreign exchange. Gold generally is measured in US dollars, but we're here in Australia. So obviously, the Australian companies report to the ASX in Australian dollars. And of course, if you get an appreciating Australian dollar with a rising US gold price, then it's big profit margins. So there's all of these factors that you sort of need to consider. Talk to all of the companies that are here. They'll have answers for all of these sort of things today. But that's the kind of stuff to consider when you're looking at making an investment or understanding gold. Where is it? What kind of deposit is it? How long is the life of mine for it? What's the grade look like? What's the flow sheet look like? What do their costs look like? And it's what Alex was saying about results. Look at their bottom line numbers, vary from year to year, but you can get a good snapshot of what the company's like, what its profitability is like, what its PE ratio is going to be like, how much money you think it's going to make, and what it might be in terms of a future investment going forward. So they're good things to have. Now there's nothing worse than a poorly cropped, really complicated chart on a slide that's totally different colour. Basically what I wanted to say here is this is kind of the gold markets. Now, this is a World Gold Council schematic, and look, the important thing here is obviously when the gold's mined and processed and refined into bullion, it goes into several different markets. It goes into the over-the-counter markets, it goes into bullion, into the bullion banks, it also goes into the futures market. The important thing, I guess, from that slide is to look at what it's used for, and you can see there's a split between jewellery, gold bars, technology, the exchange-traded funds, and the central banks, and you can see the split up there. That's the rolling average, 2013 to 2022. Obviously changed a little bit since then, but that's a really useful understanding of the gold markets, and you can find that on the World Gold Council website. It's definitely worth a look because it sort of helps explain, where gold goes, because a lot of gold is sitting around in bullion vaults and things like that, and just really useful understanding the sort of journey of gold from the mine to where it finally ends up. And interesting thing, obviously gold's starting to be recycled a little bit as well. So it's not just all coming out of the ground, but gold's being repurposed, jewellery's being repurposed and things like that. So that's interesting. Just kind of want to show this as the penultimate slide. It won't be the last time you see this graph, I'm sure, over the next 2 days, but it's a pretty good looking graph. Gold, like any commodity, has its booms, has its busts, but the trend line's been up over the last 30 years, and what an impressive run it's had recently. And particularly, as I say, if the Australian dollar doesn't strengthen too much more, certainly the Australian gold producers will be well placed to capitalise on what I think is the beginning of a very large bull market in gold. And I just kind of want to thank everybody for the opportunity to talk today. As I said, I won't repeat things that Kerry and Alex have said, but I think we're well primed. All of the signals are there in terms of US Federal Treasury cutting rates, obviously geopolitical tensions, and there's a real demand for gold. And it's been a real opportunity to give you a really high-level, quick snapshot of what gold is like. Please come and say hello to us. We've got a booth right opposite the hall here. My colleague Bonnie Parry will be talking about the merits and why you should buy a lot of Kingsgate shares later on today. And it's just been a real pleasure to be here and share a few of my thoughts with you. Thank you very much.